Abu Bilal al-Minuki, alleged to be the second in command of ISIS globally, has been killed in an operation conducted by United States and Nigerian forces. President Donald Trump said, "Brave American forces and the armed forces of Nigeria flawlessly executed a meticulously planned and very complex mission to eliminate the most active terrorist in the world from the battlefield," Trump said in a post on Truth Social on Friday.
The United States Department of Justice has arrested and charged an Iraqi national alleged to be a senior commander of an Iran-backed armed group that is said to have orchestrated a wave of international terror attacks. A criminal complaint unsealed on Friday in a Manhattan federal court accuses Mohammed Bakr Sardawood al-Sadi, 32, of involvement in at least 18 attacks and attempted attacks spanning the US, Canada and Europe.
On Saturday, millions of viewers will tune in to the Eurovision Song Contest final. A veritable feast of sequins, smoke machines and unabashedly kitsch, formulaic Europop. At its heart, the contest has always had a tongue-in-cheek quality, with commentators often adopting dry, sardonic tones, while artists lean into the spectacle with flamboyant costumes and performances that revel in not taking themselves too seriously.
Ollie Watkins scored twice as Aston Villa eased to a 4-2 Premier League victory over Liverpool to seal Champions League qualification for next season and leave their visitors looking over their shoulder at the chasing pack. The win on Friday moves Villa into fourth place with 62 points from their 37 games, leapfrogging their opponents who have 59 points from the same number of matches.
Apple is reportedly moving ahead with efforts to diversify its chip production beyond TSMC, with Intel emerging as a possible manufacturing partner. Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo reported that Apple and Intel have started small-scale testing of lower-end and legacy Apple silicon chips using Intel's 18AP process, according to multiple reports.
Google is expanding quick share support for Apple's AirDrop to more Android smartphones, making it easier to send files directly between Android devices and iPhones. The company announced the expansion during the Android show, I/O Edition. QuickShare already supports AirDrop on select Android devices, allowing users to share photos, videos and files with iPhones without using a separate app.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has set a 17.145 trillion federal revenue target for Pakistan in FY 26-27, backed by 430 billion in new budgetary measures, a higher petroleum levy target, and fresh revenue commitments from the provinces. According to the IMF staff report on Pakistan's Extended Fund Facility and Resilience and Sustainability Facility reviews, total federal revenues for the next fiscal year are projected to rise more than 13.5% to 17.144 trillion compared to the current fiscal year. Pakistan's energy sector circular debt has surged to 5.206 trillion, with the gas sector accounting for 3.442 trillion and the power sector contributing 1.764 trillion, according to the International Monetary Fund's latest report. The IMF report stated that by early 2026, the combined circular debt of Pakistan's electricity and gas sectors had reached 5.2 trillion, reflecting mounting financial pressures across the country's energy system.
OpenAI launched a preview of new personal finance tools for ChatGPT Pro users in the US on Friday, allowing them to connect bank accounts and ask questions about spending, investments, bills, and future planning. The company has partnered with Plaid to manage account connections. Users can connect accounts from more than 12,000 banks, including Schwab, Fidelity Chase, Robinhood, American Express, and Capital One.
In Islamabad, the Galiat Development Authority, GDA, under KP government signed a 100-year partnership with a private consortium for developing Pakistan's first purpose-planned mountain destination at Thandiani Top. The agreement is bound by an eco-conservation framework designed to protect Thandiani's natural beauty as it becomes a world-class tourist destination. The project's master plan is currently in preparation by a leading international architect firm. Above Zero will operate as a four-season mountain destination and a new model for mountain living in Pakistan. With a pedestrian-first public realm, a world-class hospitality district, and a residential enclave built with restraint and long-term thinking. Above Zero is a destination that proves that development and preservation do not have to be enemies.
According to recent global consumer technology reports, demand for smart home security systems continues to grow as households increasingly prioritize remote monitoring and connected living. What was once considered an optional upgrade is now becoming part of everyday home management, particularly for families balancing busy schedules, frequent movement, and long hours away from home. Modern home cameras offer that visibility through features such as remote monitoring, motion detection, night vision, and mobile access. Beyond surveillance, they provide a sense of reassurance, particularly for households managing multiple routines at once.
Indian veteran Virat Kohli said he has nothing left to prove and would consider playing the 2027 one-day international ODI World Cup only if he can still contribute meaningfully. The 37-year-old, who retired from 2020 internationals after India's 2024 World Cup triumph and ended his 123 Test career last year, is now active only in the ODI format. During his first year back in office, United States President Donald Trump's blustery negotiating style won him concessions from countries on issues ranging from tariffs to armed conflict. But with Iran, that same brand of coercive diplomacy, marked by public threats, insults and ultimatums, seems to have hit a wall and may be undermining his own efforts to end a war that has shaken the global economy. Washington. US President Donald Trump's visit to Beijing ended without the major breakthrough many had expected from his talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The summit instead highlighted the widening strategic gap between the two powers. Both sides projected warmth and stability during the two-day visit. But the meetings showed how difficult it has become to turn high-level engagements into meaningful cooperation on major issues such as Iran, Taiwan and technology.
For at least 2 decades, Hijri Road has been a nuisance for the people who live in Gulshan Town's Metroville colony. So when UC6 Chairman Nasir Ashfaq managed to get the Karachi Development Authority to fix the inner neighborhood service lane, they insisted on paver blocks this time. 3 years later, sewerage still overflows from time to time, but at least by the time they clean it up, there is still a road underneath the muck. US and Nigerian forces killed a senior commander in the ISIS militant group on Friday, President Donald Trump has said. Tonight, at my direction, brave American forces and the armed forces of Nigeria flawlessly executed a meticulously planned and very complex mission to eliminate the most active terrorist in the world from the battlefield, Trump said in a Truth Social post late Friday ET.
US President Donald Trump said on Friday that Abu Bilal al-Minuki, second in command of ISIS globally, had been eliminated in an operation conducted by US and Nigerian forces. Tonight, at my direction, brave American forces and the armed forces of Nigeria flawlessly executed a meticulously planned and very complex mission to eliminate the most active terrorist in the world from the battlefield.
Anthony Seldon has written biographies of each of the last 8 British Prime Ministers. When he embarked on the project in the 1990s, the work was mammoth but measured. Then, the occupants of 10 Downing Street would spend several years in office, allowing him to scrutinise his subjects properly as they each stamped themselves on their times. But Seldon now risks being overtaken by events. After the recent churn of leaders under the previous Conservative government, which saw the party cycle through 3 leaders in 1 year, Selden had hoped that Keir Starmer's victory in 2024 would herald a return to political normality. Starmer's Labour Party won a thumping majority in Parliament and promised a decade of national renewal. Pakistan's forthcoming budget confronts a difficult reality. The formal economy is overtaxed, investment remains weak, exports struggle to compete regionally, and salaried individuals face rising tax burdens even as inflation erodes purchasing power. Yet meaningful tax relief appears fiscally difficult at a time when economic growth is slowing, debt servicing costs remain elevated, and IMF discipline continues to constrain policy choices. This dilemma has triggered an important national debate. If Pakistan wishes to reduce the burden on documented businesses and taxpayers, how can it compensate for the resulting loss in revenue? The answer lies in recognizing that Pakistan's fiscal challenge is no longer simply one of raising taxes. It is increasingly about how all parts of the state can share responsibility for reviving industry, employment, and economic growth. This responsibility includes the provinces in which employment is potentially created.
The Middle East's largest annual contemporary art fair opened in Dubai on Friday against the backdrop of the Iran war, drawing fewer galleries and a more local crowd than usual. This year, in its 20th edition, Art Dubai opened a month late and in a scaled-down format after the regional conflict forced the organizers to revise their plans.
Milan Fashion Week said on Friday it would invite participating brands at its high-profile runway shows not to show fur, in a partial concession to animal rights activists following pressure. The National Chamber of Italian Fashion, CNMI, which organises Fashion Week, has been under pressure from animal activists to ban fur at the shows. Something fashion weeks in London, New York, and various others have already done.
Berlin. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Friday he would advise his children against living or studying in the United States at the moment, citing a rapidly changing social climate and limited opportunities even for the highly educated. The remarks highlight tensions between the United States and its European allies under President Donald Trump, with disputes over trade, the wars in Ukraine, and now Iran putting the NATO alliance under strain.
PTI M&A's question centres double standard over worsening law and order in both provinces. Tariq Fazal Chaudhry says it with CM bug provincial subjects. Lawmakers from the opposition PTI on Friday questioned why terrorism and lawlessness continued to afflict Balochistan and called out what they termed the government's double standard when it came to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Decision comes in response to traders' protests, appeals by Shopping Malls Association and general public. Lahore Chamber of Commerce welcomes move, describes it as important business-friendly step. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Governor CM resolved to ease restrictions in their province as well, Lahore, responding to traders' protests and appeals by the Shopping Malls Association and general public to revise 8 p.m. business closure timings. The Punjab government has granted partial relief and lifted the restriction on market timings until June 1.
Kawang Nu Jin needs fuel to plough and fertiliser to nourish his rice as planting season approaches. But the ships carrying his crucial cargo are trapped 2,000 miles away by Iran's stranglehold of one of the world's most important waterways. Now the farmer is running the calculations. Can he survive when the costs of fuel and farming come to more than he earns from selling rice?
US President Donald Trump has said he would accept a 20-year suspension by Iran of its nuclear program in what appears to be confirmation of a shift in position away from a demand for a total end to it. Trump said it had to be a real 20 years. Previously, he has called on Iran to permanently cease enriching uranium, a stage in making a weapon, and to be prevented from ever acquiring nuclear weapons.
A retired French sports teacher is in custody after being caught making sexual propositions online to a 14-year-old girl, except that the 14-year-old girl was not a 14-year-old girl.
At least 7 Palestinians have been killed and dozens injured in 2 Israeli airstrikes on a residential building and a civilian vehicle in Gaza City, according to medical sources. The deaths on Friday come as Israel said it carried out a strike on Izz al-Din al-Haddad, the head of the armed wing of Hamas in Gaza.
The lawyers for Mahmoud Khalil, a former Columbia University student targeted for deportation by the United States government over his pro-Palestine advocacy, have called on an immigration appeals court to reopen and terminate his case. The latest legal appeal points to new evidence, some of which was documented in media reports, suggests that the Trump administration secretly engineered the outcome of his immigration case to de-ration to make an example of him.
A former security chief in Mexico's Sinaloa state has been taken into U.S. custody on allegations linked to the Sinaloa cartel, according to federal court records and reports unsealed late Thursday. Gerardo Merida Sanchez, 66, who served as Sinaloa's public security secretary from September 2023 to December 2024, was arrested in Arizona on May 11 before being transferred to New York.